And this session is really all about how do we make next year an extraordinary year? How do we make 2023 the best year ever? But before we start, and so this is an important session. It's an important time of the year because this is really the time of the year where we should be thinking about what next year will bring. But before we start to get into that, I'm going to talk about something you can do straight away to get in the right frame of mind for next year. And then what I'm going to do is share with you in this session a 6-step process, a process that I started doing myself. Wow, I think it was about 17 years ago, possibly a little bit more, but about 17 years ago, I went through a process that I do every single year that's helped me to build the life I'm very fortunate to have living here in Portugal and all the other things that are going on in my life right now. And I might share some of that as part of explaining and talking you through this 6-step process. So I'm going to talk you through the 6-stage planning process that you can start to do over the next few weeks to make next year an awesome year, hopefully your best ever year. And also, I know there are some people here that are into business advisory, people like Jim Rayner, people like Bill Robinson. And when I teach business advisory, this is a great process that you can also use with your clients at the start of any business advisory engagement. So you might want to have that in mind as you're hearing me go through the 6 steps today. But before we get into that, I want to ask you a question. And I want to know, thinking about the last 11 months, we're nearly into month 12, thinking about 2022, how has it gone for you? And what I'm going to invite you to do in a little while is just put into the comments box 2 things, a number and a couple of words. So don't put it in straight away just yet, just hang on a second. There's really 2 questions and you can answer them both in the same. One is, when you think about this year and you think about the goals that you set a year ago, how has this year gone? How have you got on? And I've got to make it simple, I've got a scoring scale where 0 is you didn't achieve any of your goals, through to 3, you achieved all of your goals. Put an X if you didn't even set goals, 1 if you achieved some, 2 if you achieved most. So 0 to 3 or an X. But also, before you type that into the comments box, also reflecting on this last year, how do you feel about this last year? Do you feel it was a great year? Has it been a stressful year? Is it disappointing? What emotion would you put as well? So put both of those into the chat box. Put the score and also how you feel about it. So it might be 3, I'm stress-free. It could be 1, it's been a terrible year, whatever. Just describe the year or your feelings when you start to think about what you've achieved or perhaps not achieved over the last 11 months, the year so far. And this is important, and I'll explain why in a little while. I'll just give you a chance to see some of the comments coming through. I'll read a few out. So actually, so far there's a lot of 1s. 1 is I achieved some of my goals. So lots of 1s. People like Ray, Rachel, Stacey, Melanie. Andrea says she achieved some, and it's been an exhausting year. Russell Munns, hi Russell, good to see you, says he achieved most of his goals. And it's been a much better year. LaDawn, for her, it's most of her goals, but it's been stressful. Biz Books Organised, a 1. Wish the year had gone better. It's disappeared off my screen. Sorry a second. Wish the year had gone better. Not a good year. I'm sorry about that. Difficult year, but getting back on track. That's actually Emily. It's been a rough year all round, but feeling pretty good about my business. Achieved some goals. In the main, Sharon's frustrated, a 1, achieved some of the goals, frustrated. It felt stressful. So a lot of those sorts of comments. So I'm not going to read them all out because there's lots of comments in there. But here's the point. When I generally ask people, let's just get rid of that. When I ask people, have they achieved their goals? How's the year gone? Very often for most people, it's we've achieved a few things. Not as many as we'd liked. We've achieved a few, and I think most people have put a 1. I don't think anybody has put NG, or sorry, an X. Nobody put an X to say no. Okay, so you've all set goals. That's great. Okay, awesome. As far as I can see, you've all set goals, because that's the starting point. We need to make sure we're clear what we want to achieve next year. Okay, so a lot of people don't achieve the goals, and also we get to this time of year, and for many people, not everybody, but for many people, there's a sense of disappointment, perhaps. Certainly stressful is a word that's cropped up a lot in that we feel stressed, perhaps because we've not done what we want to do, we're not where we want to be, it's frustrating, it's been a difficult year. These are very often the things that people tell me when I ask about reflect on the year. Is 2022 going to be has it been an awesome year for you, or has it been challenging? Has it been difficult? Has it been frustrating? And for most people, it's those more negative feelings, negative thoughts towards the year. It's not been what we want it to be. And what we really want to do is, when we start, I would argue that the next 30 days is the most important 30 days of the year, because now is when you can start thinking about making next year a great year. This is the time of year where it's a great time to plan and think about next year. And so if we're going to start thinking about next year, if we're going to start planning for the future, we want to do that with a positive attitude, a positive mindset, because if we're feeling exhausted, stressed, then that's going to reflect in our planning. And that means we're going to come up with probably a poor plan for next year as well. We want to make sure that we're positive. And so one of the things I like to do is make sure that we end the year on a high. We want to end the year on a good note. And the trouble is, we tend to focus on the bad things. We tend to focus on the things we didn't achieve in the year, the things that went wrong, the challenges, the problems that we faced. And because we naturally focus on the bad things, we sometimes forget about the great things that we've done, the great things that we've achieved. And so one of the first things I do is I sit down, I've started my planning process already. I started to write down the things that we've achieved in our business this year. And at first, when I first sat down, I'm thinking, it's been a tough year. It's not changed as much as I'd liked. But when I sat down and started really thinking about it, and particularly when you start to go back in your mind and look at what happened in January, February, March, April, sometimes we forget about what happened in the first part of the year. And I'm going to tell you some of the things that we've achieved in the business this year. But while I'm doing that, have a think about, what have you achieved in business this year? What's some of the positives? What's the thing you're most proud of? Perhaps you've hired a new person that's been awesome. Perhaps you've moved premises. Perhaps you signed up your biggest client this year. Perhaps you repriced your clients this year and are getting better prices. Perhaps you've put in a new system in place. Put in the comments box, what's something that's gone well for you in your business this year? Something that you are proud of, something to celebrate. So have a think about it and put it in the comments box, because we tend to reflect on the bad stuff. And when I think about this year, some of you may know, we did 3 virtual conferences. We've never done a virtual conference before. We're a team of 4 people. We're just 4 people based in Portugal and the UK. And yet we ran 3 conferences this year. We had over 1,000 people register for the Profitable Bookkeeping Conference last February. It was a 3-day conference. Perhaps many of you were at that conference. And we had guest speakers, we had sponsors. We had an amazing time over 3 days. We had a second conference in May, which was all around business advisory. And then just a few months back in October, we did our 3rd conference, and that was called Value 2022, 3 days all about creating value and value pricing. And so when I look back and think, wow, we'd never done conferences before, but we've done 3. We also, back early on in the part of I sometimes forget this and you take it for granted, but I launched a podcast. I say I did. Actually, the hard work was done by Emily. But Emily launched our podcast earlier on this year. I just kind of forget about it from time to time, but that was a big thing. Some of you also know back in July, my latest book was published by Kogan Page. So that's available on Kogan Page's website and Amazon and various places. Another thing as I reflect back on the year is Sarah and I dropped to a 4-day working week. We don't work Fridays anymore, which was a really interesting experience. And one of the things that we found is that moving from 5 days to 4 days has zero impact on productivity and the things that we've managed to get done this year. It focuses the mind, and yet it's also amazing having a 3-day weekend. So I do that exercise. I look back at the last 12 months and write down all the things that have happened. There's other things as well. I'm just picking some of those. And you want to do the same thing because you want to focus on the positives. You want to end the year on a high. Celebrate what it is that you have achieved. And I can see lots of stuff in the comments box right now. I'm going to pick up on a few of these because it might inspire others. So let's see. Lisa says she finally created 3 packages for an annual client. Awesome. So something I'm guessing, Lisa, you've been meaning to do for a while and finally got round to it. We have Sharon joined the academy this year. So joined value pricing. Welcome. Kristen did something really impressive. Resigned from clients who were difficult. That's a big thing. Stacey says joining VPA as well and rethinking everything, implementing my learning. We've got Deborah's created a brochure and working on systems. We have a few people have said getting rid of some clients who are not a great fit. Lisa as well got rid of some pitter clients. We've got some repricing successes, signed on 3 brand new clients. Hired my first staff member, LaDawn, congratulations. So you're all doing great stuff. It's just sometimes we forget about that when we get with all the stresses of life. So that's the first thing you want to do. I strongly recommend that you plan some time in the next few weeks to start to plan next year. And the first thing you do is think about 2022. Think about what did go well. Celebrate that. We don't celebrate enough. When you celebrate the good things, it makes you feel better. It puts you in a more positive place. So let me talk through this 6-step process then, the process that I've been doing for many years. I started doing it. I always do the planning every December. It doesn't mean you have to. You might want to do different time periods. But for me, I always find it easy to plan in calendar years. And December, I have always put time aside in December to do strategic planning, to think about and create the plan for the year ahead. I've been doing it for about 17, 18 years. I've refined the process over the years. I do it religiously. I never skip a year because this is the most important exercise that I do. And sometimes when people look at my life, we live in Portugal now. We work a 4-day week. I make more money than I can possibly imagine spending. I have an amazing business working with amazing people where I don't have to travel. I just stand and teach, which I love teaching. This is the thing that I enjoy doing. This isn't work to me. This is helping other people in this way is what makes me happy. We have an amazing team of people. Our 2 daughters, Emily and Gabby. And so life is great. We can see the sea. We can see the sea. Sarah and I go out for lunch most days down to the cafe and sit overlooking the sea, drinking a coffee. We go to dinner most evenings in restaurants. And so I guess what I'm saying is I feel like I'm living the dream life. But it didn't come easy. It's been 15, 16, 17 years of planning and planning religiously and always creating that plan and working the plan. So the 6-step process I'm about to reveal to you now is one that I've been doing and it works. Every single year I take another step forward. So what are those 6 steps? What do we have to do? Well, the first thing, we're really focused on our business right now, but it starts before that. And I learned this from Michael Gerber many years ago when I came across the E-Myth Revisited, an extraordinary book. And we also had Michael Gerber on stage at one of our conferences in the UK many years ago. And as Michael says, he says that business is a boring waste of time. He's right. It's a boring waste of time. The only purpose of a business is to give us more life. So the question becomes, what is more life? What is the life that you want to live? And you need to start there. When you're thinking about what you're going to do next year, we have to think about where we're going, where we're trying to go. And you need to sit down and write down, what do you want your life to look like? Where do you want to live? When do you want to retire? If you're not retiring, how many days do you want to have on vacation every year? How many weeks on vacation? Whatever it might well be, start to think about, what does your ideal life look like? And of course, some people say to me, that's difficult to picture because that's a long time in the future. But when we think about goals and planning, things can change. So when I started this process back in about 2003, 2004, I started writing down what I wanted my life to look like, all the things I want to achieve in my life. Some of those things have changed over the years. It wasn't way back then that I wanted to live in Portugal, it was the south of France. I wanted the sunshine. But over the years, it changed a bit. But I always had a picture of what I was aiming towards. So number one, what does life look like? So step two, the next thing we then do is, having got that, the next thing you do is, okay, so what does my business have to look like to get that particular life? What does the business need to look like? This is your vision. You must have a vision for your business, a vision for when the business is done, when you've built it, when you've created it, perhaps when you're going to retire. What do you want your business to look like? And how is that business going to give you the life that you want? So, for example, in my case, if I go back a decade, I was working in a different business in the UK. Some of you will know AVN. And it is a great business. It's run by my friend Shane Lucas now. It's a great business. But I was starting to get a little bit frustrated because I was starting to, at that time in my life, formulating what I wanted life to look like. And I was sick of the English weather, the English winters particularly, and I wanted to live in a more Mediterranean climate, south of France, Spain. It wasn't Portugal then, but that was the kind of thing that I wanted. But I realized that I was in a business where I taught at physical events, physical conferences. I was speaking multiple times every month at workshops, seminars, conferences in the UK. So there was no way that I could live my ideal life if I was running a business where I was attending events, where we had an office, we had at one point 30 odd people in the team. It just wasn't the business that was going to give me the life that I wanted. And so back in 2014, when I started this business, one of the key things was, I now know that I want to live somewhere else and I want to be able to travel more. So it has to be a business where I'm not constrained to a particular territory, a country. I can run from anywhere. So we built this business and it's 100% virtual. So the question that you need to think about is, what does your business need to look like? Where does it want to be based? How big does it need to be? How many team members do you want? What's that business going to look like to give you the lifestyle that you want, the life that you want? So we have to create that vision. And that's because I call this process vision to plan, because what we want to do is have a plan for next year. We want to have a plan. You want to know exactly what you're going to be doing in January, in February and March. You want to plan that out next year. But you can't plan next year until you know where you're going to. Where is it you're trying to get to in your personal life first, and secondly for your business? What's the vision? You need to record that vision. Now that vision will typically be it'll be when your business is done. It could be the retirement date. If you find that too hard, perhaps if you're like me, I have no intention of retiring because I love what I do. So my vision is a date that's 10 years out. I don't plan to retire, but I have one that's 10 years away. That's my vision. So having got that, once you've then in step two written that down, you've described what your business is going to look like. You've perhaps put some numbers to it. How big does it want to be? What's the annual sales going to be, the annual revenue? How many team members working for you? How many weeks holiday are you going to have? Once you start to think about that vision, then what we need to do is create our goals. What are our goals? And I suggest you think in terms of medium term and short term. The vision's the long-term goal. That's right in the future. So now we come back from there. We've got that mapped out. We know where we're trying to get to. So now we come back to the medium and the short term. And I typically go with the medium term being 3 or 4 years out from now, and short term 12 months. It's up to you. But what I do is I sit down every year and think, okay, 3 years from now, what do I want the business to look like? What are the goals 3 years from now? And they want to be goals so that I know that when I get in 3 years down the line, if I achieve those goals, I know that I'm on track to get to where I'm trying to go. I'm on track to the vision. So think of the medium-term goal as a marker to aim towards that will lead you towards the eventual vision. And it's much easier to create that medium-term goal when you're clear what the end point is. What's the vision? When you know the end point, we work back from that. And then the short-term goal is I usually go for calendar years, 12-month goal, because for most people I've always struggled with thinking too far long-term because I love my life, I love the work I do, and it's difficult for me to picture sometimes exactly what I want the business to be like in 5 years. I have a vision. I want to be able to work the hours I choose. I want it to be virtual. I've got an idea of the size it wants to be. So when I come to the medium-term goals, it's not always easy. And that's fine because goals can change. You revisit them every single year. And I know that when I looked at last year's medium-term goal, I'll adapt it a little bit based on, things change. But the short-term goal, the 12 months, is one that I think is particularly important because it's close enough to really, it's not that, it's December next year, end of December, it's 13 months away. What's the goal for end of next year? Now that we know where you want to get to, we know that you want to build a business that's, let's say, 2 million in 10 years from now or 20 years. So where do we need to get to a year from now to know that we're on track, that we're moving along the way? We want to start to define what are our 12-month goals. What's the size of your business at the end of next year, turnover? How many more people are you going to hire next year? How many more clients do you need? Are you going to be based in the same place? Is it going to be a virtual business? What are the things you're aiming for next year? And if you've ever studied goals, you'll know that goals you need to make sure that they're measurable, that you can put a number to those so that you'll know whether you've achieved it or not by the time you get to next year. It's got to be measurable. It's got to be specific. It's got to be a clear goal. So the more specific, the better. You want it to be something that's awesome, that's going to inspire you. But at the same time, you want it to be realistic. So think about your goals. Now then, we start to get what we do from there. Once we know that, step 4 is we then work on our strategy. And there's really 2 parts to this. When we start to do our strategic thinking, and this is where I spend most of my time now. So I spend a bit of time, the vision, the goals don't take too long because I've been thinking about them for the last 17 years. I just review them every year. And I might tweak them a little bit based on circumstances, but the real work comes in the step 4. It's the strategy. And as I said, there's 2 aspects to this, because strategy, what is strategy? I remember many years ago going to Durham University Business School in the UK, where they do a lot of they're the leading university in the UK for MBAs, business thinking. And I remember the professors gave some definitions of strategy. And there were all sorts of definitions. He said there's dozens and dozens of definitions of strategy. But he ended with something that he said, this is my favorite definition. And it was mine too, because I'm a simple person. I like simple stuff. And as the professor said, he said, strategy is very simple. Strategy is all the things that you are going to do, all the ideas, the things you're going to do that's going to take you from A to B, where B is where you're trying to get to. And that's your goals. We know what B is now. That point B is where we're trying to get to, our goal. Our short-term goal, we know what that is. So strategy is all the things that are going to take us from where we are now, which is point A, to where we want to be. And so when we think about strategy, we have to be clear on, well, where are we right now? We know where we're trying to get to. We've now created our goal for the next 12 months. We want to win an extra 50 clients. We want to move into new offices. We want to hire a senior manager, whatever it might well be as your goals. Where are we right now? And there's lots of processes that we can go through as part of that. You may have heard of SWOT analysis, PEACE analysis, and so on and so forth. But at the simplest level, what you certainly want to do right now is think about And I might get you to put it in the chat, in the comments box. What are your biggest challenges right now? Once you know where you want to get to, what are the challenges? Put it in the chat box. What's your biggest challenges right now? The challenges might be things like, if I want to grow to where I want to be in a year from now, I've got to figure out, the challenge might be to figure out how to win new customers, win new clients. The challenge might be, how do I hire a skilled person when there's a lack of skilled people around? The challenge might be to do with you need some new technology. You're just not sure what technology that's going to be. So what are the challenges? What are the biggest challenges that you find right now? As someone just said, winning new clients is a challenge. Staffing's a challenge. Too much work, not enough time. So there's a resource. Andrew's got a resource issue. So he needs more resource, more people. What are your challenges? So write them down, brainstorm and think about the challenges. Onboarding workflow management, more ideal clients. Another one, staying focused to win the right clients. Lisa's got a challenge with wanting a skilled subcontractor. Rachel is delegation, struggling to let things go. So yeah, think about all the challenges and then start to think about, okay, so what are the things I'm going to need to do? What are the strategies? What are the things that I need to do to get from where I am right now, the challenges, the problems I'm facing, to where I want to get next year? And you want to start brainstorming. And this is the fun bit of the process. And I find this works best if I've got some questions to get me thinking. And there are certain questions I ask every single year. So one of the things you'll probably want to do every year is grow your firm. So one of the questions might be, how do I win more clients? If you want to win more clients, if your goal a year from now is to be bigger, then one of your challenges might be you need more clients. So how do you win more clients? And then you sit down in a quiet space and think about, what are the various things you could possibly do? And come up with as many ideas of what you can put in place to win new clients. All the different marketing ideas you might have thought about. Perhaps you need a new Facebook group. Perhaps you want to create a Facebook group, sorry. Perhaps you need a lead generation system. Perhaps you need to start emailing your potential clients more often and offering them things. What might it be? It might be revamping your website. So ask yourself some questions like, how do I win more clients? How do I keep more existing clients? How do I create the resources to serve my clients better? How can I create more value for my clients so I become more attractive? How do I put my prices up? So think about the challenges, turn them into questions, and sit there in a quiet place with a blank sheet of paper and brainstorm the answers to those questions. And all of those ideas are going to be your strategy to get to where you want to be. The strategy to grow your business might be to create a Facebook group. It might be to revamp your website. It might be to have a lead generation system in place. It might be to start learning how to write better copy so your emails are more effective, so more of your prospects, when they get them, read them and want to book a meeting with you. Whatever it might well be, brainstorm all of those ideas. They are the things that you're going to want to do next year to get you from the challenges you're facing right now, your point A, to where you've now defined your point B to be, your short-term goal. That's strategy. And that's step 4. And the way I do it, just to give you the way I do it is because I've done this for about 2003, 2004, over 15, 16, 17 years, I always get to the stage now in my kind of business life cycle during the calendar year. I get to November, and I'm starting to now think about and reflect, okay, so what could I do next year? What are some possibilities? It's this time of year where ideas pop into my head. And I then start to spend, when I plan my year of work, like things like webinars and training, I always make December a bit quieter. I have more spare time in December than any other month. Why? Because I know that I'm going to want to put time aside to go and sit down at a cafe in the sun. It's raining now, but anyway, with my iPad and my iPad pencil, and just jot down ideas, answer those questions, reflect on things. And then what I do is I then bounce those ideas off my partner, Sarah, and then we also have a meeting planned in 2 weeks' time where we'll sit down with Gabby and Emily as a team, and we'll go through those questions and get their ideas as well, and start to then work out which are the best ideas. So I do it in a number of phases, but I certainly recommend that, if nothing else, between now and the end of the year, you block out at least a full day or a couple of half days, no emails, turn everything off, and just think about next year. This is the most important thing that you can do. If you do not plan, if you don't create a plan, then next year you'll be drifting. And this time next year, you'll have the same feelings as this year. You'll feel frustrated. It's been a struggle. It's been a challenge, stressful. If you want next year to be better, the next 30 days are the most important 30 days of the year, the time you put aside to create that plan. So that's step 4. Step 4 is the strategy. It's the thinking bit. It's the brainstorming. It's the bit that I enjoy the most, just sitting down, coming up with ideas, thinking about the challenges, asking myself questions. How can I overcome that? How can I get more customers? Whatever it might well be. And then just coming up with ideas, pages and pages of notes of possibilities, ideas. And when you've done that, some of those ideas you may then dismiss after a bit. That's fine, but you'll end up with the things that you'll end up with a list of the things that you want to do next year, the various actions. So it might be things like, you may want to develop, improve, change your website. It might be you want to put a lead generation system in place. You need to hire somebody next year. Perhaps you're looking for to implement a new type of marketing. Perhaps there's other things you want to do. Perhaps you've got other things that are part of your plan that are a little bit different. You want to speak at an event, for example. You want to run your first live stream to win new clients. Whatever it might well be, create that list. Now, the problem with that list is you may well find it becomes overwhelming. And very often it is. When we think about all the things we know we need to do in our business, we're already crazy busy. We're already working crazy hours. And now we've got this list of things we've got to do. That can be overwhelming. It can be scary. So don't worry, I'm going to tell you how we deal with that in step 6. But let's deal with 5 first. So step 5, what we want to do is now that we know where we're trying to get to over the 12 months. Now we've got some strategies. We've written down some things we want to do. Perhaps we want to grow our business. And so to grow the business, we've got a number of marketing strategies. Like, for example, we want to form a Facebook group and start attracting business owners into our Facebook group as part of our marketing. So number 5, what we do, and this is the easy bit for you because you're accountants, bookkeepers, numbers people. Number 5 is now what we do is we start to create the measures, the milestones, or the KPIs, the key predictive indicators. So what are the most important numbers that you need to measure to know whether you're on track? And some of those will come from your goals. So it may be that your number 1 goal is to grow your firm from 100 clients to 200 clients. So if that's a goal, then you want to measure that number. And what you want to do is break that down to monthly numbers. You want to create monthly numbers along the way because you're going to use these to measure your progress over the course of 2023. Those measures, those KPIs may also be born out of your strategy. So if, for example, your strategy is as part of growing your business, you're going to set up a Facebook group. And my question would be, okay, so if you're going to grow a Facebook group, how big do you want it to be at the end of the year? And if you want it to be 500 people by the end of the year, how many people do you need by the end of January? How many by the end of February? And start to put all the numbers in place. That's going to be your yardstick. As next year unfolds, you will be measuring yourself against the most important milestones, the numbers. Number 6. Number 6 then is, now we've done all that, we now create the plan. We create the plan. And I said to you in number 4, when you start sitting down and coming up with all the ideas, the strategies, the things you want to do to get from A to B, it may well be overwhelming. You might be thinking, how on earth am I going to get all those things done? So what we do is we break the year down into smaller chunks. We want to make it so it's manageable. We want to create a plan. And the way I always do it, and the way that I think works for most people, is we break that down to quarters. So you take your list of ideas, your strategies, and you break it down into the quarters, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. And an important piece of advice is, if we've got some big things that we want to do next year, I call these big rocks. These are the big projects. So revamping your website will be a big project or a big rock. If you want to hire a senior manager, a senior person in your business, or even a potential partner, that's a big job, that's a big rock. If you want to reprice your existing clients, that's a big thing. If you want to put in place a lead generation system, that's a big thing. If you want to write an ebook, if you want to plan to run your first ever live stream and you have to figure out how to do it, that's a big thing. So these are what I call the big rocks. And what I would recommend is that in any one quarter, you never have more than 3. You can't focus on more than 3 things at once. 3 will be the maximum. And it may even just be 1 or 2. So when you look at all the big things that you've got planned for, that you'd love to do next year, with that list and with your goals in mind, what's the thing you want to work on first? What's the most important? What's the thing that's going to get you move to your goals the fastest? Is it repricing your existing clients and getting your pricing right? Is it hiring that senior team member? Is it revamping your website? What's the thing that's going to have the biggest impact to move you towards that goal? The thing that's going to have the biggest impact goes into quarter 1, and you work on that first. And you could have up to 3 things, but no more than 3 big projects in quarter 1, because you can't cope on with more than that. And if you do find that you struggle to get things done, just 1 then, just 1. And then do the same for quarter 2. What are the big things you're going to work on in quarter 2? Same for quarter 3, same for quarter 4. So if I go back 12 months ago when we were sitting doing this plan for our business, I think about the first quarter, I'd have to revisit the notes now, but we will have had launch our first ever virtual conference, which was the Profitable Bookkeeping Conference. That was a quarter 1 big rock. Launched the podcast was another big rock. We might have had a third one, I don't know. But when it's those 2 big rocks and you've got 3 months, that's doable. We can do that. We can work on 1 or 2 things at once. We can't work on 7 or 8 things. If you try to have 7 or 8 things done in that first quarter, you'll get overwhelmed, nothing will happen, you'll get nothing done. We have to have focus. Someone said earlier they have a problem with focus. Very often we lose focus, well, for 2 reasons. We lose focus when A, we don't know where we're trying to go. So this process creates clarity, and we also lose focus when we're trying to do too many things. So we want to create, the whole purpose of this exercise is to create complete clarity as to where are we going and what's the next thing we have to do. What's our big rock for quarter 1? And all those other things you've listed as your strategy, don't worry about those. If they can go into quarter 2, 3 or 4. We want to focus on quarter 1. We want to work on 1 quarter at a time, 1, 2 or 3 projects at a time. And as part of that plan, what we simply do is say, so what are the 1, 2 or 3 big rocks? And then we brainstorm, so what are the specific actions that we want to take? If in our case, it was, we're going to launch our first virtual conference. And so what do we need to do to create a successful conference? Well, we have to find some great speakers. We have to find sponsors. We have to have a platform that we can use. We have to create the email marketing. We have to create the marketing messages, the social messages. And so we sat and we planned all the things that need to be done to create a conference. And that was our big rock for quarter 1 of last year. We also had the podcast. Fortunately, Emily did all of that, so that was easy for us because she did it all. And so that was it. We focused on those things. And we knew that both those things would help to move us towards our goal. There were a million other things we could have done, but we knew that we got them blocked in for quarter 2, 3 and 4, and therefore we could forget about them as we started 2022. And so your plan gives you that clarity, and it also then creates your weekly task list, because once we've got that plan and we know what's the 1 to 3 big rocks for the first quarter, we break that down to the specific actions, put a deadline date in each of those, and that's that's the plan for the first 3 months. And what we then do is, and I use Trello for this, but you've probably got your own system for creating your weekly planners and to-do lists and stuff. One of the things that we do, we have a process using Trello whereby anything of those big rocks with the things that need doing, those things sit on my weekly planner, and every single week I'll be working towards those things. So for example, next quarter, we're running that conference again, the Profitable Bookkeeping Conference. Watch this space. There'll be invites coming out soon. And so we've been working on that. That's a big rock for next year. And we have a whole bunch of actions that need doing. And we have a system using Trello for our big rocks where things then just go on the my weekly to-do list. So every week I have a card that I'm just working my way through the specific actions for that big rock. And the important point is that we can get distracted so easily. Stuff happens. There's other things you need to do. You're running a business. You'll have client meetings. You'll have to have Zoom calls with meetings. There's stuff that has to be done. And I get that. There's things that I'm running. I have to run this session. I had one yesterday. I've got one tomorrow as well. There's things that we have to do to run the business. But we have to also schedule time in our calendars every single week to do those things that are going to move us towards the goal. Running this live stream is great fun to do. It's not going to help me achieve my goals. There are other big rocks that are really important. Your next client meeting isn't going to help you achieve your goal. It's just part of running the business. You've got to do that. You've got to meet that client next week, but you've got to block out time to work on the big rocks. Even if it's just a couple of hours every week where you just take that thing another step further. That's your 3-month target for Q1. You work on it one step at a time. Perhaps you want to write an ebook. Perhaps if it's writing an ebook, your deadline's end of quarter 1, but you need to work backwards and say, right, where do I want to be by the end of month 1, then 2, then 3? What are the specific actions that are going to take me towards and help me write that ebook as my big rock in Q1? And that needs to be, you need to be doing consistent actions to get that done and not get distracted by other stuff. Okay, I'm going to see what questions we've got right now. There are loads of comments, I know that. But if you haven't asked your question yet, remember if you could put a QQ in front, because that'll help it jump out. I can see a question mark hidden away somewhere, so I may have missed it, but let me go back. I'm just going back right now because there's millions of comments and seeing what questions have come in. I don't think there's many questions. I don't think there's many. So if you've got a question, please ask. We have what, 12, 13 minutes. Oh, and I do have something else I want to tell you about, which we'll do next, actually. Give you a chance because I can't see any questions. I did see something from, is that Kazi or Kazi? I hope I pronounced it right. There's a question mark in there. Oh, I will answer that question. I've seen it. It's a question. I will answer that next. But before I do that, just two things I want to tell you about before I forget and run out of time. Number one, the next event that I'm running is coming up very soon. If you're interested in this whole area of subscription pricing, my next live stream will be interviewing my great friend and mentor, Ron Baker. We're going to have a chat for an hour all about how to get on board with subscription pricing. And I should be able to tell you the date of that, and I didn't prepare it, so I don't know the date. Sarah's perhaps will put the date on that. So subscription pricing with Ron Baker coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Date will appear in the chat box from Sarah. Second thing, yesterday, if you came to the live session yesterday that Emily hosted, you'll know that we have just launched something called VPA High Achievers. So one of the things that we've been asked about from Value Price Academy members over the years is, can we get one-to-one coaching? And so we created this year a coaching program for accounting firms, for bookkeeping firms. And we're just about to launch VPA High Achievers 2023, where we're going to take a group of people and work one-to-one and help them to achieve their goals for next year. This is for people who want help, who want to help work with a successful coach and want to be kept on track and who want to work fast and get results fast. Now, it's for Value Pricing Academy members, but we are also going to have it, so VPA members can have, it's not optional upgrade. They can enroll in this 12-month program and work with some coaches. But if you're not a VPA member, we are actually opening up the opportunity to join VPA as well over the next week. If you really want help with getting your goals and you want one-to-one coaching. It's a 12-month program. It's expensive because it's one-to-one coaching. We have to pay coaches. Now, who are those coaches? The coaches are Emily, and we have a panel of coaches who are very successful accountants and bookkeepers in my academy doing amazing things, helping now other people to get the same results. And the way it works is that if you join the program, you get 2 one-to-one coaching sessions every single month throughout 2023. And you can choose the coach which is most relevant to you. So some of those coaches are accounting firms, some bookkeeping firms, some are in the UK, some are Canada, some in the US, some are larger firms, some are smaller firms, and we can pair you up with whoever is the most appropriate. Not only that is you can swap your coaches during the year, depending on whatever big rock you are working on. So if you decide that for Q1 next year, I want to reprice my existing clients, but I'm not sure how to do that, we have 2 coaches that are brilliant at that, and they'll guide you through the process and help you to get amazing results from repricing your existing clients. So it's a 12-month program. The investment, if you're not a VPA member, your investment is just, I'm going to give you the dollar numbers. There is a website we'll give you a link to, which Sarah will put in the chat box about nowish, where it'll be the prices in your local currency. So I'm going to use dollars for now. If you're in the US, it's just $1,400 per month, which I'm sure you agree that's an amazing price given the fact you've got one-to-one coaching from 2 highly skilled peers doing amazing things. If you're in the VPA, and by the way, that includes VPA membership as well and all the benefits of that. If you're a VPA member already, then it's just an optional upgrade. It's just $1,000 a month for the 12-month program. It's not just about coaching though. You also get access to Emily, not just as a coach, but she's a marketing genius. And so one of the things that she will do if you want is help you implement all of your marketing strategies next year. She's a copywriter. She can help you create systems for getting new leads. If you want to write an ebook, she can help you do that. If you want your website revamping, she can help you do that. And then something else we do is we are having a 2-day retreat in Portugal where Sarah and I will host you here in our town. It's going to be for a small group of people, which will be fellow high achievers and the coaches. It'll be 2 days where you can spend immersed in your business with other people building amazing accounting businesses. There's more I could tell you about as well, but what I'm going to do right now is Sarah's going to put a link into the chat box. So if you want to find out more, click on that link. There's a video from me with a bit more information, and you'll be able to find out things like who are the panel of the coaches that you can choose. These are amazing people doing amazing things in their businesses that will help you with yours. It also in there tells you about the 2-day strategic retreat in Portugal. It'll also tell you in there somewhere about what Emily does. There's things like mastermind sessions, the things that Emily can help you with marketing. She'll work with you to implement stuff. So that's High Achievers. The link's in the chat box. I see Sarah's put that in various places, LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on. Have a look at that. Now, it's open to just 20 people. We're only taking on 20 people, and we close it next Tuesday because this time Tuesday, we're having a welcome kickoff session to welcome the people on board. So I know that, so you've got about 5-6 days before we close the enrollments, and you're probably going to have some questions. So have a look at the page. Have a read of the page if you're interested in someone supporting you and guiding you one-to-one throughout next year. And if you've got any questions whatsoever, email my team, email Emily and Sarah. The email is support@wickersham.co.uk. Ask your questions. Okay, let's go back and answer some of the questions that have come in though. And let me go to Kazia, if I've got that right. So this is an interesting question. She says, how do I leave employment and dedicate 100% of my time to my business? Fear is real. That's her question. And that's an interesting one because I went through that in 1995, 1996. Some of you will know I started my accounting firm 31st of May 1996 as a sole practitioner. I was in business as a corporation tax manager before that. And the mistake that I made was I started off building up the business just as a side project, just for some extra income. I did that for a few months, and then by early 96, just realised I was stressed out. I was coming home from a full-time job, and I was having to work weekends, work in the evening to do client work, and it wasn't a lot of money because I'd only got a few clients, but it stressed me out. So the next thing I then decided to do is I went to my employers and I said to them, and I'd recently changed job. I'd moved as a corporation tax manager to a new job, been there for a couple of months, realised that I want to build my own practice. So I went to the partners and said, could I work part-time? And I knew that it took them a long time to find me as a corporate tax manager. So I said, look, I'll help you out. I want to do my own thing, but I'll help you out. I'll work part-time for the next 3 days a week. And they said yes. And that was a mistake, because what I found was that for the next 6 or 7 weeks is now I'd got 2 days a week to be immersed in growing my business. That was where my passion lay. And so I started to really not enjoy my employment, because I knew that wasn't, I'd made that decision. That's not where I wanted to be. And I was also frustrated because I actually wanted to just do it full time. So I gave it about 6 weeks, and then I went back to the partners and said, look, this isn't working for me. I just need to do this. And I handed my notice in and started doing it full time. And I know that it's scary doing that, because if you haven't got many clients, the worry is, well, I need to feed my family. I need to pay the mortgage. But what I found is that when you're in that situation where you've got full time working on your business, the energy that you have, the passion, the enthusiasm, it will work out. It might take a few weeks, a few months to get those first few clients, but you will find that you will grow. And there's plenty of people in my community that can help you with that. We had yesterday Neil Criddle, who was made redundant in January 2020, and he was sharing his latest results. He's got an extraordinary business that he's growing now. I hope that helps a little bit, Kazia, that question. Let me answer the next question I can see is, Deborah says, is there a PowerPoint or workbook for this session? No, there's not, because, yes and no, but no, because I don't do PowerPoint much, as you know. I don't do PowerPoint. But for people in the Value Pricing Academy and the Bookkeepers Pricing Academy, there's a session tomorrow for Academy members, which will be a longer session where we go deeper, and there are workbooks. So if you're not in the Value Pricing Academy or the Bookkeepers Pricing Academy, so I'll start again. If you're not in the Value Pricing Academy, if you join the Value Pricing Academy at some point, we are opening up enrollments next May, but we're also opening up right now as part of the High Achiever program. One of the things we do is we teach you the strategy and how to build an extraordinary business. And I have a full workbook and resources and training on this whole vision to plan process. So there are workbooks, but they are part of the Value Pricing Academy. Right, let me see. I'm not sure I can see any other questions. We do have about 2 minutes left. So if I've missed a question, just copy and paste it back in. I apologize. I can't see anything saying QQ. But interesting comment from Ladorn says, when I was in that place, a fellow business owner friend of mine said, jump and the net will appear. It's scary but true, and oh so worth it. And it absolutely is. It was from my experience. My brother got made redundant some years later, and that forced him to start a business, and he's very successful. I mentioned Neil Criddle, who was forced into that in 2020. And so, Ladorn, I absolutely agree with that. We're into the last minute. Sarah, I don't know if I've missed a question or not. I can't see any other QQs. I normally get a lot more questions than this, but that's fine, because I also had a lot to cover today. So I'm going to wrap up by saying, firstly, thank you for coming. But the most important thing is, as I often say, is I asked a rhetorical question. Are you a note taker or an action taker? Are you someone that's come along to this session just to make some notes, or are you an action taker? Are you going to do something? And what are you going to do? Are you going to allocate some time in December to properly think about and plan for next year and create your plan, create your vision, create your goals, and work through that process. Because I promise you that when you do that, when you devote time to do that, you'll start January with clarity, which is critically important. Clarity, knowing where you're trying to get to, what needs to be done. You'll start with, I always start with a huge amount of optimism. When I know what I'm trying, I have that clarity, I get excitement about the things that I've planned for the next 12 months. And it's just a great way to start off the year. And when you are in a positive frame of mind, when you're excited about the future, when you're optimistic, when you're positive, you do better work. You won't achieve your goals if you're in a negative space. And that's why I say start off with celebrate your wins. What was successful this year? Okay, I can see some great comments coming in. I'm going to read those in a second as I play out with some music. For those of you brand new in this, I will play out with some video so I can read comments, and it'll give you an insight to what life is like in Portugal on some of this video. I will see some of you, if you're in the academy, I'll see you tomorrow. And if you're not, I'll see you on the live stream with Ron Baker, where we'll be talking about subscription pricing on the 14th of December. Thank you for that, Sarah. See you all soon. Bye for now.
I wasted all my time, I wasted all my nights, I wasted it on someone who's indifferent. He didn't love me right, he told me I was blind, but I never really wanted to listen.